Hey guys, what is going on today? We are in Raleigh, North Carolina for a Newbreed tournament, and I may or may not have TKO'd my opponent. Damn! I'll also be fighting a student that hails from one of the biggest and oldest gyms in the area, Gracie Raleigh. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into match 1. Alright guys, so the first thing I do is I grab a 2-on-1 wrist grip and I pull guard.
Stop it. Get some help.
I'm looking for an early arm drag. As I begin to come up, I feel the guillotine being wrapped up, so I sit back to guard with a collar tie. If Antonio would have kept pressuring in, I would have countered with a guillotine of my own. However, he plays smart and disengages. As he comes back in, he grabs my ankles and dumps me to my back. I grab a collar tie and switch from my hips to my knees. I'm waiting for him to drop his head lower than mine as he starts to pass, that way I can throw on a guillotine. However, I notice his head is currently above mine. This puts him into a more successful front head attacking position than I am in, so I sit back out into an open guard and grab a 2-on-1 wrist grip. He goes for a leg drag, but I stuff the 2-on-1 and square our center line back up to prevent any strong passing opportunities. I then transition to an elbow and wrist 2-on-1 and look to shoot a triangle. This causes Antonio to posture, making his base really heavy. Based off of this reaction, I scoop grip under his ankle and transition into K-guard. I use my left leg behind his knee to break his base and my right leg to control the distance and prevent Antonio from running away.
Ow! Why are you running?
He backsteps out of the guard, but it allows me to come up on top and receive 2 points for a sweep. As I come up, I try to walk into a knee cut, but I don't pin the bottom leg, so Antonio is able to keep me away with the left foot posted on my hip. I disengage and grab his ankles for a throw by Toriando. I expect him to try and re-engage his guard as I walk towards his head, but he rolls into turtle. I'm in an awkward and unexpected position with a somewhat of an underhook and somehow maintain to keep that ankle grip. I definitely did not expect to end up in this position, and as I feel Antonio go to posture, I try to sneak a flying triangle, but he manages to get his elbow frame between my legs and negate the triangle. I resort back to the 2-on-1 wrist grip, and then as Antonio goes to strip the grip by pulling away and posturing, I almost caught him with a dummy sweep. However, unfortunately, I missed his right ankle and I was only able to make him stumble. As we re-engage, Antonio dumps me on my back with that same strategy he used the first time. I almost see a triangle, but I have to abandon it when he gets too close to passing. I'm able to defend by keeping my knee and elbow connected and realigning our center lines. I grab another 2-on-1 wrist and elbow and walk through the same sequence of triangle fake to K-guard, and I sweep him again using this method. I stand up to a weird leg entanglement and make sure to release his foot from the guard to prevent getting DQ'd over an accidental knee bar or calf slicer. As I stand, I post my elbow on his hip to prevent a high leg guard recovery and walk into side control. As Antonio goes to frame on my hip, I walk up on a knee on belly, and as he frames on my knee, it opens a pocket up for an underhook. So I try an armbar, but he flattens his back out.
You gotta be quicker than that.
As I slide back into side control, you'll see me relieve the pressure on his head and focus more on just controlling his hips. I then swing my arms to the same side of his body and look for a Kimura grip. However, I see an opening and I just high leg to take mount.
I'm fast as boy.
I'm sitting in mount for almost a minute and a half, but I'm having trouble exposing submissions because Antonio's playing really tight with his elbows close to his chest. We get reset in the middle and he's eventually able to buck me off, so I try to transition into K-guard, but I don't off balance him enough and he's able to turn into me and we end up in 50-50. Truthfully, I hate this position, so I work to try to disengage as fast as possible. I try to off balance and work to come up, but my right leg is trapped, so I'm forced to return back to single leg X. I then take my left leg and hook inside in order to off balance him even more, and this time I'm able to come up. And then, ladies and gentlemen, it happens.
Surprise, mother.
As I go to step past his hip line and go to knee on belly, I accidentally knee him in the face. It was a pretty brutal hit, but I was able to talk to him afterwards. He's a really cool guy, really cool coach. Again, I'm sorry for my white belt tendencies, but I'll end up moving on to fight Jackson for first place in the intermediate Nogi division. Okay, so going into round 2, I wanted to follow the same strategy. My opponent starts off by putting me in headquarters and looks for that topside underhook to knee slice. I'm immediately repummeling for inside position because if he gets that underhook from here, he'll have a lot of upper body control, which could result in an easy pass. I control the close wrist, looking for an arm drag if he continues to pressure forward. He begins to cut an angle and move in for the knee slice, but fails to pin my bottom knee to the mat. This allows my right leg to turn into a hook.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
I then place my right hand under the sole of his foot, and it's going to prevent his foot from touching the ground and keep him off balanced. My right leg is then going to extend and elevate Jackson, allowing me to invert underneath his hips. I then grab behind the pocket of his knee with my left hand and use this to pull myself under. I replace my hand with my shin and make sure to keep my knee outside of his knee line to avoid leg entanglements. I come up for the sweep and 2 points. I immediately work a throw by pass but get caught up in half guard. I disengage and look to walk into headquarters. My opponent shifts his hip, giving me an easy deep step into the pocket of his right knee. I'll stuff the top leg between my legs and push down on Jackson's shin to nullify the daily Hiva hook.
I've got you right where I want you.
The daily Hiva grip Jackson has on my right ankle leaves an opening on his left side for an underhook. I drop my elbow to connect to my knee and shoot the knee slice. I make sure my elbow protects the inside position and denies my opponent their knee shield. Unfortunately, he does a good job at framing and off balancing and creates enough space for him to reinsert the knee shield and block the initial pass. I try to slice outwards to go around the knee shield and hip switch, but he catches my legs and pulls me back in a half guard. I re-pummel my left leg to try to get my foot back on the inside. I then push off my left arm to shift my weight to my right side. Because I chose to pummel my left foot back over his knee, I have no strong base to prevent Jackson from sweeping me to the left, so I need to correct my weight distribution as soon as possible. I also re-pummel my left arm to regain my elbow and knee connection and create an underhook. I stay low and use my torso to block the knee shield and cut my left leg to the right to go for another knee slice. As I try to complete the pass, I use my right leg to try and free my ankle. However, now with all my weight on top of his hips and an underhook preventing me from basing out, I nearly get swept. If I had switched my head from my underhooking side to the left side of his head, I would have been a lot heavier on that left side, which could have prevented the sweep attempt. As I try to stay on top, I almost get armbarred.
You gotta be quicker than that, buddy.
But I managed to suck my elbow back outside of his hip line. I then use my left elbow to regain control of the inside position of my left knee and grab a scoop grip on his top right leg. I move to an angle and use my chest to block his right knee from re-guarding and drop chest to chest. He tries a last minute reverse triangle, but I control his left ankle and negate the submission and pass his guard. So throughout this video, I've talked a lot about inside position. In this next part, you'll see Jackson move both hands inside. From here, he's easily able to move to a single leg. This should hopefully give you some insight when trying to control your opponent. Inside position wins, most of the time. As Jackson comes up on a single leg, I try to whizzer, but he steps over the back of my left leg. From here, he has too much advantage over me, so I sit out to guard. He continues to pressure forward and I lock up a Kimura grip on his left arm and wait for his next move. As he starts inching out to the left side, I manage to slip my left leg out and throw it over his shoulders to lock it onto his hip.
Hey, that's pretty good.
This makes it harder to pass to the left side and also gives me more leverage on the Kimura. His head also shifts from my left hip down to my right hip in the ground. My hips now gain a little bit of mobility so I can start to work around to his back. As Jackson begins to tripod up, he creates an opening on his left side, so I bring my bottom leg through and lock it into a triangle. I have a really bad angle to finish the standard triangle, so I grab my right leg and shoot my left leg high over the back of his head. I grab an underhook on his leg and crunch him inward to finish the reverse triangle. Okay guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know, do you think I should have been DQ'd for that accidental knee in the first round? Give your opinion in the comments below. And Tony and I talked afterwards on my way out, and he's actually a really cool guy, as I mentioned. Again, if you or your coach is watching this, I apologize once again. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe for more jiu-jitsu content like this, and I will see you all next time.